So most kids after high school graduate, head off to college, and never look back. But this is not the case with Cielo Acosta. She is not only a teacher at SLAM Miami, but she's an alumnus. Welcome, Cielo. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me today. It's definitely a pleasure. And I feel very honored to be here and wanting to be interviewed for this. And I think it's a special occasion, and I think I'll have great things to offer to this interview as well.
Wonderful. Yeah, I appreciate having you because we get a lot of voices, the principals' voices on the charter school movement and what it means to them or parents. But I love to hear from teachers and alumnus. And here I have two in one. So start by telling us when did you go to a SLAM and when did you attend or graduate?
Well, initially for my freshman year of high school, I went to Miami Senior High. And as I was entering my sophomore year over the summer, I heard a couple of my friends at Miami High speak about this new upcoming charter school that was called SLAM, and it pretty much spoke about integrating the curriculum of sports with regular core curriculum, and I felt very interested, which is when, I spoke to my parents about the interest that I had in the school, and my parents have always been very supportive of me academically and about my education, and they always prioritize being educationally driven. So they felt like if this was the best fit for me, they were on board and very supportive of my decision. So they helped me with the progress. And it's ironic because it wasn't even a SLAM when I did the paperwork. We were still being hosted in Matter Academy, and that's where we did like our physicals and our registration. And I went there and we did our paperwork, and it was a brand new school for my sophomore year. If I'm not mistaken, that was in 2013. And we started, and the rest was history.
Well, that was a very brave move on your part to go from a very established school that, you know,
What I like to say about it is that, and as I became a teacher as well, I've learned that all students learn very differently. We have different methods because we are very different as individuals, and the way we perceive things and grasp it is very differently. So with that being said, Miami High was a great school in the sense that it had a lot of programs for their kids. Like they had a nursing programs and things of that case. However, it didn't have the hominess that I needed, and it didn't have the one-on-one closer bond and connection that I had at a charter school at SLAM, specifically with my teachers, with my administration, and my coaches. And when I was at Miami High, I felt like it could have been perfect for somebody else, but it wasn't perfect for me. And I felt like I wasn't going to reach my full capacity there, and I felt like I needed more guidance and more structure, which is when I saw myself kind of going down that path and lacking that, is then when I realized that I needed to definitely make an adjustment in my life. And after all, I am the captain of my boat, so I decided to do that. I thought it was the perfect transition to make, and hearing about SLAM was the perfect opportunity to get what I finally needed. And without even knowing it, I felt like I would like to say that I definitely accomplished that at SLAM, and I got that, and I got so much more.
wow. And that's a really big decision for what, a 14, 15-year-old to
I was at the time 15. I just turned 15.
It's a really big decision. So I was going to ask you how your parents chose the school, but clearly you chose the school, and you knew that that was an environment for you. You were also not just a young scholar, but an athlete. So
Mm-hmm.
you had mentioned that you were in the dance program, polo, tennis.
Yes. So I had done cheerleading my previous years as I was much younger. However, I wanted to get involved, and I had very great mentors while I was at SLAM. And I've always had heard the importance of not being very just academically driven, but being a well-rounded and versatile student, and having things that reflect well on my resume, and just being well-rounded overall, which is why I decided to participate in clubs and participate in sports, which is why I did things like water polo and tennis, and cheerleading and dance. And I actually, to this day, am very well communicated with some of my coaches still. And they still continue to be my mentor and help me in different stages of life, like now adulthood, as they did in my early years of youth.
Oh, I love that. Um, so this week is National Charter Schools or National School Choice Week. And I saw your story and I thought that was a great way to highlight choice, because you're the perfect example where in 25 years ago, there was no charter schools and only a few magnet programs. And your only recourse would have been your neighborhood school. Like you said, wasn't great. I mean, was great, but wasn't a good fit. Can you talk about your peers at that time and others that transitioned to the charter schools?
Well, I had actually many, like I said, many students. That's where I initially heard it from. And they actually did very well. Some of the students are in California. Many students that I knew actually went on to Division I schools to play sports. People joined the police academy, firefighting academy. And if I'm not mistaken, we had a couple people going to the army and the Navy. So I feel like very similar to my story, we got definitely what we needed, especially because, as we know, some charter schools, in our case, SLAM is a Title I school, which means that most of our demographic is low income students. So this was, in the time, it was pretty much it was like a miracle on a neighborhood that really needed a change, and this was definitely it for many of us. And I think that without SLAM, we wouldn't have the opportunity to be as successful, because not only did it incorporate a lot of things that prepared us for adulthood, but I feel like it also gave us a platform to develop ourselves as individuals, and it allowed us to create a lot of connections and gain a lot of experience that would allow us to be successful in our adulthood and in our professional and personal life as well.
Hmm. And then while you were there, the school got pretty famous.
Yes,
It
definitely.
became an
Middle
ambassador.
school, yeah.
So you guys always had VIPs going through the halls. Uh,
Yes, definitely. As we host a lot of lines, people host a lot of events at our gyms. They rent it on the side. And we all had a lot of always celebrities coming in through as well. We were always in the public eye. And obviously, besides the fact that we had a lot of publicity because of the people who were coming through our school, more than anything, it was someone who was famous, giving back to his community, the place where he came from. And what better thing to always be humble and come back to your roots and to your home and allow those children the opportunity that he maybe wished that he had in his time growing up.
hmm hmm and I would imagine it's also puts you all as a student under a little bit of pressure to perform. Like, oh,
Definitely,
everybody's watching, and there's a certain expectation from us.
definitely.
Yeah. Um, so you came back to SLAM. You went away. You
Yeah.
studied. You said biology in your bachelor's degree.
I studied sociology in West Virginia University for my first 2 years of school.
Hmm.
And it was great because in the summer, so initially before I went off to do my first 2 years at the university, Mr. Brito actually hired me as a secretary my senior year.
Okay.
So if I'm not mistaken, from the time of March until the end of my senior year, summer, going into orientation and transitioning into college at West Virginia, we rented our facility for Miami-Dade International Campus while they were doing their renovations. So the professors and the student body would do classes at SLAM. So I would be the person that would pretty much do the phone calls, orient the teachers, if they have any technical difficulties, because I am bilingual. I would take the time to always like translate and guide everyone and kind of coordinate that. So it was that, and then I spoke with Mr. Bredo and told him that I was really grateful for the opportunity. However, I did want to pursue my education. I thought this was a great time to kind of leave my nest and broaden my wings and my horizons. When that's when I took the time to leave to West Virginia. However, I always remained very good contact with my family at SLAM, and even throughout the summers of my freshman and sophomore year, I would actually be the camp coordinator at SLAM every summer. So I would, do the invoices, plan their field trips, do the schedules. We would do marketing and things of that kind. So that was me. And, my parents have always embedded, loyalty and always giving back to those that give you, because we are very fortunate. So they have always maintained their doors and their arms open to me. Even throughout the summer when I would leave, they were very understanding with my schedule. They were very flexible, and they always gave me opportunity to grow, because most people wouldn't be flexible with students or wouldn't just want you for the summer. But they always, I would like to say, saw more of me than I did of myself.
I love that. And what a perfect person to run that summer camp for the kids from that community, someone from that community.
Right?
It's not just about language, but you get those kids. That's beautiful. And it sounds like you're in line to be a school administrator there. I mean,
I've gotten, a lot of people have
student,
definitely
yeah.
have told me.
Student front desk, summer camp, you're getting there. You're getting there.
Yeah, little by little.
So you talked about sports, and not everybody knows that SLAM incorporates the sports into the curriculum. It's sports leadership and management. And there are academies in the sports medicine, sports journalism, sports management. That's very exciting, whether or not the kids end up doing that. And when you and I first spoke, you talked about that and how you liked doing that integration and matching it with the standards. Can you talk a little bit of that?
Of course. So we teachers are required within our lesson plan to not only create lesson plans biweekly with our Florida state standards, which are pretty much key points and main focuses of the curriculum that will be on our FSA towards the end of the school year. But also, besides creating lesson plans, our teachers here at SLAM are also required to create what are called SLAMified lessons. And that's pretty much the integration of sports with our core curriculums, which are our FSA standards. And I think this is amazing because one of the main things that our children are interested in are sports, whether it's baseball, basketball, running, whatever it is that they may be interested. And, I'm a firm believer that school isn't easy for everyone. I was a great student, but I know that that's not the case for everyone. And I know that's not the case for all of my students. So when we do these Islamified lessons, it does provide a great channel for our students to feel understood and for them to understand the material in ways that they couldn't before, because we grasp their attention, and instead of being adults and them being children, we kind of lower ourselves a little and we have something in common. And building that connection not only advocates core curriculum and having great grades, but it also allows you to build that connection with your child or your student. I always say my children.
Yeah.
um, but because you have this thing in common and they kind of see you more eye to eye, I think that building this personal connection through the Islamified lesson and meshing curriculum, it will then help them academically. And I have seen them, like, for example, we did textual evidence at the beginning of the school year, which is one of our main key points in the FSA. And they went on and they read various articles about Kobe Bryant, for example, and then they would have to create a PowerPoint and they would have to pick different quotes that the author did in the article, and they have to defend their arguments as to why they believe that Kobe Bryant was the best player of the NBA. So here we are citing, here we are providing textual evidence, comprehension, making connections, looking at the textual structure while still doing something that we love and that interests us beyond just school.
Yeah, and it's relevant versus
Yes.
it's a Edgar Allan Poe poet. That's much
And
better.
even though those are very important in literature and it is what we're
Absolutely, they
receiving
are.
at
They are.
SLAM, but it is sometimes difficult to kind of reel our students in when we're doing Edgar Allan Poe or William Shakespeare, things of that
Absolutely.
kind.
Absolutely. And it's like you said, you're speaking their language. Uh,
Yeah,
and you're getting the job done. Citing,
definitely.
which sounds like
And
a
it actually is better because like the charisma you get from them, the energy you get from them, like it makes you more excited. It makes your job easier, and it makes the time go back so much faster to see them learn and to see something that they truly love. It makes me doing what I love much easier when I see that they're happy, that they're understanding because they can make a connection.
yeah. Um, so, what motivated you to come back to Slam as a teacher?
So besides always maintaining open doors throughout the faculty and administration, like I had mentioned previously, I felt like, as I said, that they believed in me in ways that I didn't believe in myself just yet, because I feel like at that age, it's a very difficult concept to understand. And they would always give me, very rigorous tasks. And I never really saw the point of it. And then, as I got older, it kind of just happened to be that I was already in the education field. And like I was saying, I was coming in that summer, I was doing the summer camp coordinator, and I had made the transition to be back in Miami because of, unfortunately, my parents are low income individuals, and my parents would never tell me to stop going to West Virginia University. However, I knew that I wouldn't want to place a financial burden on them. So it just happened to me that I made that I don't want to say sacrifice, the decision myself to come back because I knew it was going to be easier to them, and I know that I could work and provide for them, and I know that what better to go back than to the community that I came from, and that to the person that always gave me help and opportunities in the time that I needed them the most, whether it was at the summer and whether it was I was senior year. So one of the days while I was working here at SLAM in the summer as a camp coordinator, and my days were coming to an end because summer camp was wrapping up, vacation, summer vacation was about to end. I spoke to Ms. De La Chia, which is our administrator, and she is our assistant principal. And I told her that I was very interested in returning back to Miami, that I had to apply at FIU to finish my last 2 years, and that I wanted to start working at SLAM. And she was more than thrilled to always have me back. She spoke to Mr. Breto, and that's when I became the aftercare teacher slash aftercare coordinator. After doing a year of that, which worked perfectly because once again, they were working with my schedule. I had class from 7 in the morning to 12. I worked from 1 to 6. And after a year of doing that, I took the decision to speak to Mr. Berto about becoming an interventionist, and Mr. Berto clearly said that if I chose not to go to school, then he was going to fire me. Because he said that my first priority should always be my school, even though I was a great employee, but that my goal and his goal was for that his alumni to become much more. And I respected it, and I bet my parents definitely did too. And so that year after I worked my first full year here back in Not Just Summers, I transitioned to an ELA interventionist, and pretty much what interventionists are. We reinforce the core curriculums, in my case ELA, which is language arts, for kids who either have low ESO levels or was still in our ESO program, or unfortunately didn't do too well on our FSA. We teach them in a much smaller environment because, as I said, not all of our students learn the same way. And we use different resources with technology and our regular books, and we kind of speak with them on a one-on-one basis. We do things like vocabulary, reading, incorporating regular novels, textbooks, and things of that kind, to pretty much give those teachers that extra boost so they can thrive much more when they enter, whether it's their intensive reading course or it's their regular language arts, in hopes that next year they score much better in the FSA through that additional curriculum support that I provided, and they can exit either the ESO program through the a test, or they can score very well on the FSA and pass other core classes so that they don't have to be either retained in the school year or be able to have those electives because they don't have any intensive, and that can be definitely very frustrating. So that's definitely a big motivator for the kids. When you say no PE next year, they know to hustle up.
Yeah. Okay. So then you went from interventionist to,
And then last year when the coronavirus happened, I was still in school. I was in my last semester at FIU, and I everything was good. Graduation was ready to go. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to walk, but that degree still made it very worth it. And I graduated last spring from FIU with my bachelor's degree in sociology. They already knew that I kind of wanted to be a teacher. So as soon as my transcripts in, Miss Abascal, which is the AP, our assistant principal for middle school, since we do have two buildings, a middle school and a high school. Ms. Rechea is our high school AP, and Ms. Abascal is our middle school AP. She had already been speaking to me about it. We had already touched bases a couple of times. Like I said, they were already pushing for me to do this. They were already encouraging me, holding my hand through all the process. We met throughout the summer as I was still working at SLAM in the summer with our tech team. And we sat down. She went over my transcript. She told me what area would I fit best in. She looked at based on my credit and the classes that I took, and she pretty much sat with me. We went on the Florida Education Portal. She helped me sign up, and then within a week I had my temporary license. We did all the paperwork and I was ready to go. And here I am as an intensive reading and ESO teacher for 6th and 8th grade.
all right. And like, if that's not enough, you're also a club sponsor.
I am. I do the environmental sponsor, and I am also the 8th grade sponsor for our class. I think it's great because as important as academics are, I also am a firm believer in students expressing themselves in other ways that are not academically. And as a teacher and someone who works in a school, our job is to provide that safe space and that outlet for them by bringing up innovative ideas and doing creative things with them. And what a better way to do that than to be the person who arranges all the activities for my 8th grade students and the person who is able to advocate the love for our planet through the environmental club and the importance of keeping our animals and our earth very safe.
That's very exciting. So I was going to ask you, do you think that your experience as a SLAM student influences the way you teach? But it sounds that absolutely everything you do, because you see yourself in like you call them your kids.
I do. And something that I think makes me a great candidate as a teacher, specifically at this school, is because I was a student who roamed those same halls, and I know what they need and I know what they are. And I know that the battles that they fight at home are in so many of the battles that everyone else thinks that they do. I think that unfortunately many of their lives are very difficult as it is. And I think that coming from someone who experienced those battles too, I'm able to speak with them in many ways that many adults cannot. And I can provide, like I said, a safer space and a space of understanding. And when you create this bond with your children and when you allow them to feel safe, you not only teach them important life lessons, but they also pick you as a mentor, as I picked many of administration and teachers when I was in that stage of my life. And it taught me to go further academically because, like I said, they feel understood and they feel like you're just not any adult and you can get me and you can understand me. And if you give me that, then I can give you something else in return. And that is, great grades, punctuality, the importance of accountability, discipline. And, we tackle it one thing at a time, but definitely my experience here at SLAM and being someone from these neighborhoods allows me to have a further understanding about how they feel and what they think and what can I do and kind of access my inner child, to provide for them in many ways that other people can't provide for them.
Mm. Wow, you're gonna make me very emotional.
I've been trying not to.
No, but it's beautiful because with the charter school world, it's not just parents picking a school, but it's teachers also can choose where they work.
Yeah,
And this is a perfect example where you chose not to come back home, because that school you probably spent more hours there than you did at home, because they can be
definitely.
quite rigorous.
And even when I was like a student there, like it was actually very difficult for me to leave SLAM and onto West Virginia, because besides doing all of these activities, I also was the basketball manager, and I also was an assistant for athletic trainer. So what we would do is, like, as you said, we do have different academies as our kids leave the wheel of middle school and enter their high school years, and they have things such as marketing, broadcasting, journalism,
Mhm.
and sports medicine. I was in the sports medicine field. So at our time, her name was Logan Rex, as she was the athletic trainer at that time. She, in seasons, we have different sports that have, she trained me. I got a CPR certified. I was AEP certified. She taught me how to do everything as an assistant athletic trainer. She would go on to different games, and I would lead to different games to aid the athletes in whatever it is that they needed, whether it was physically, stretching, training, warm-ups, any small injury. So for a school that I had manifested so much of my time and energy, and it was kind of like my safe space, it was very difficult for me to leave, because it's like, okay, now I got into the big world, but little did I know that when I got into that big world, all of my mentors, administrators, and teachers taught me everything that I needed to know in that safe space to thrive and be very successful in my adulthood, and as I entered my years into college.
That's beautiful. Um, Well, I'm going to end with that because that's just absolutely perfect. Um, all right. Well, let's meet up again. Let's have another conversation at graduation, and you can tell me how your eighth graders did, and
Oh,
moving
definitely. I
forward.
would love that. And we can show you a montage of all the projects that we've been trying to do. And now that they're going to transition into high school. And I would definitely love to keep touch with you and to keep you touch on our process and on our and how we're progressing throughout this challenging year while we're doing virtual and physical. And definitely thank you for this opportunity. I'm definitely glad that you reached out to Mr. Bredo. It was an honor to sit here with you today, and I hope to talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you. And hopefully schools will be open and I can visit you and I can sit in the back
Oh,
of the classroom.
definitely. We can tour you around our building, and you can meet our kids, and we can do some of the hands-on things that we do with them all the time. That'd be great.
I would love that. Well, thank you, Cielo. I really, really appreciate you speaking with me, and it was a pleasure meeting you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Have a wonderful Wednesday, and I hope you have a great week.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.